Welcome back to the deep dive. So you gave us this stack of sources that really detail the evolution of AI, and it's moving so fast.
It really is.
Our mission today is to, cut right through that noise. We want to track the shift from AI being, I guess, a fancy conversational tool to something else, an agent that actually takes action.
That's exactly right. And what the sources are showing isn't just, better software. It's a fundamental change in what the AI does. We're sort of moving the goalposts.
Okay, so we need to define the stages.
We have to. We've got 3 key stages to unpack. First, the foundation, which is the large language model, or LLM. Then the bridge, RAG, that's retrieval augmented generation. And finally, the destination, agentic AI.
And the goal here, for you listening, isn't just to memorize definitions. We want to get at the architectural leap between each step. Like, why couldn't LLM do what an agent does?
Exactly. What capability is being unlocked at each stage? Because if you just get buried in the terminology, you lose the plot. So let's start with that foundation. The technology that powers, well, pretty much everything we're interacting with right now. The LLM.
Okay, let's unpack that. When we talk about a core LLM, we're talking about a phenomenal language engine. Its whole superpower, if I had to boil it down to one word, would be prediction.
That is the perfect word. Yeah. The core function of an LLM is just predicting the most statistically probable next sequence of words.
Like a super autocomplete.
The ultimate autocomplete, yeah, but on a massive global scale. It's been trained on just petabytes of text, and its entire job is to be coherent.
So if a user types, I went to the store and bought milk, and the LLM calculates that, eggs is a way more probable next word than, say, spaceship.
Precisely, and that's why it's so good at generating these fluent, human-like responses. It understands the structure and flow of our language better than any machine ever has. It basically solved the problem of sounding human.
And this is the huge asterisk, right? This is the limitation that creates the need for the next stage. And LLM's knowledge is static.
Completely static. The data it was trained on has a hard cutoff date. So if it was trained up to 2023, it knows absolutely nothing about 2024.
And it knows nothing about me.
Nothing about you. Nothing about your personal files, your company's internal documents. Or that email you literally just got 5 minutes ago.
So it's like a brilliant historian who refuses to read today's newspaper.
Right.
And that's why if you ask it about some recent news or your company's data, it either just says, I don't know, or, and this is worse, it hallucinates. It just makes up a plausible, grammatically perfect, but totally false answer.
And that gap, the gap between the model's general knowledge and the specific timely context you actually need, that's what forces the leap to stage 2.
Which brings us perfectly to the bridge. We've got this powerful reasoning core, the LLM, but we need to connect it to the living, breathing world. This is where AG comes in.
Retrieval augmented generation. Yes. This is the architecture that really starts to solve that personalization and timeliness problem.
How does it work?
So instead of just relying on its static internal knowledge, RAG adds 2 really critical steps before the LLM even starts generating a response.
And the first one is retrieval. How does it find the right external data? It can't be searching the whole internet every time.
It uses something called a vector database. So imagine all your documents, emails, reports, articles. Instead of storing them as keywords, RAG converts them into these numerical representations, vectors, that capture their meaning.
Their meaning, not just the words.
Exactly. So when you ask a question, it converts your query into a vector too. And it finds the documents whose meaning vectors are closest to your question's vector. It's a conceptual match.
That's huge, because it's not just keyword matching. It's finding the relevant paragraphs, not just the documents that happen to have the right title.
Correct. And that retrieved information leads to step 2. Augmentation. This is the key insight. RAG takes those relevant snippets and injects them directly into the LLM's context window.
The context window. So that's like its short-term memory for the conversation.
Think of it exactly like that. It's temporary memory. So the whole process changes. It's not just predict the next word based on my old training data.
It's, here are 3 paragraphs from John's recent purchase history. Now predict the best response.
Precisely. So if a user says, I love reading in my free time, a standard LLM will, suggest 5 famous novels.
Sure.
But a RAG system might have just retrieved data from a personal file that says John has recently been buying early 20th century Russian literature. So the LLM uses that to generate a personalized response, suggesting specific authors or sequels in that genre.
And this is where it starts to feel so much more intelligent. It's not a generalist anymore. It's a specialist that's tailored to you.
It is. It's the difference between talking to a dusty encyclopedia and consulting a super smart research assistant who's just read your specific project folder.
But there's still a limitation.
Still a limitation. Even RAG is fundamentally reactive. It waits for you to ask it something, it retrieves data, and it responds. It can't decide on its own that a task needs doing.
And it definitely can't go out and do anything in the real world. It can't schedule a meeting or move a file.
Sure.
And that signals the major disruptive transition. We're moving from an AI that reads and responds to an AI that acts. We are entering the world of agentic AI.
The era of autonomy, yes. This is where the whole paradigm shifts. You give the system a high-level goal, and it manages the execution of that goal all by itself.
And this capability rests on 3 new pillars.
3 pillars the sources really emphasize: planning, memory, and execution.
Okay, we need to spend some time on these because this is where everything changes. Pillar 1, planning. How is that different from me just asking an LLM to, outline the steps to book a flight?
That's a great question, because when you ask an LLM that, it just generates a static list. It's just text. It doesn't actually try to do them.
Right.
And agentic AI uses what's called recursive planning. It breaks that big goal like organize my team's offsite into smaller, actionable subtasks. And then for each subtask, it executes, evaluates the result, and this is the critical part, it self-corrects.
Self-correction. So if it tries to book a flight with a certain tool, and that tool gives an error, maybe the seats are gone. It doesn't just stop.
It doesn't stop. It recognizes the failure, it updates its internal plan, and then it iterates. It might try a different airline's API, or maybe it shifts the date. It doesn't need a human to tell it what to do next.
That's true autonomy. It's persistent.
Exactly. It persists toward the goal, even when it hits roadblocks.
Which brings us right to pillar 2, which feels the most human-like of all. Memory. We know an LLM has a very short context window. How is an agent's memory different?
It's about persistence across totally separate tasks. An LLM forgets everything the moment the chat window closes. An agent uses long-term memory systems.
So it can remember that the flight booking API failed last week and maybe not try that one first this time.
Or it remembers you always prefer a window seat. It builds this complex, nuanced profile of you over time that no single ARA query could ever capture.
So it's not just remembering that I like sci-fi. It's remembering that the last time I asked it to plan my day, I shot down the suggestion for a 6 a.m. gym session.
Yes, and it uses that failure to inform its next plan for you. That capacity to learn from both success and failure is what gives the agent its efficiency and consistency over time.
And finally, pillar 3. This is the one that really separates it from everything else. Execution. The AI steps out of the chat window and into the world.
This is the critical step. After planning and memory, execution is about translating those plans into real actions. The agent is designed to interface with external tools.
And tools can be anything, right? APIs, calendar integrations.
Email clients, custom software, anything. There's secure pathways that let the AI manipulate data or objects outside of its own code.
So it's not just generating the text telling me to send an email.
Yeah.
It's using the Gmail API to draft, format, and actually hit send on the email itself.
Yes. That's the leap from passive advice to active management. It is the ultimate delegation tool. It needs the reasoning of an LLM to decide if a meeting should be booked, the context from RGA to know who should be invited, and then the execution layer to use the calendar API to actually book the time.
What's so fascinating is that it's not throwing the old systems away. It's building on them. It uses the LLM as its brain.
Its reasoning core, yeah.
It uses RAG to pull in the real-time context. And then it wraps all of that in this autonomous structure of planning, memory, and action. It's one unified system.
Let's ground this in a real example from the sources. To really make it click for you, let's trace the steps when a user gives an agent a simple task. Plan my day.
Okay. A standard LLM would give me, a motivational quote and 5 bullet points.
Probably. An agent initiates a whole complex process, so it gets the goal. Plan my day. Step 1 is planning. It immediately breaks that down. Find my fixed commitments, identify open time slots, fill those slots with tasks, and then output a schedule.
So then step 2, it starts gathering data.
Exactly. It taps into its tools. It checks your calendar using the calendar API to pull all your fixed appointments. That's the execution layer using a tool. And at the same time, it might query its memory system, recalling you always block out Tuesday mornings for deep work.
Okay, so now it has the raw data, the fixed meetings and the open slots.
Right. Now for step 3, reasoning and augmentation. The LLM core analyzes all that information. It might use an internal RX system to pull up your current top 3 project priorities from a document.
So if I had a 2-hour empty blog, instead of just suggesting read a book, the agent sees that the Q3 report is priority 1 and due tomorrow.
And it suggests draft Q3 report executive summary. It's making a highly contextual judgment. Here's the final, truly autonomous step. It doesn't just present the schedule.
It takes action to smooth the plan.
It takes action. This is the payoff. It might use the traffic API, see your commute is going to be bad, and preemptively send a meeting modification request to a colleague for 15 minutes later. Or it could leverage access to a food delivery API to order your usual coffee to arrive 5 minutes before that deep work block starts.
It's moving from just predicting text to proactive logistics management. That really is the aha moment.
Yeah.
The AI is now an active partner.
The evolution is just so stark when you lay it out. LLMs gave us a coherent voice. Ari gave that voice specific, timely knowledge. And agentic AI, it gave that voice the ability to stand up and interact with the world for you.
Okay, let's hit that final synthesis, tying all 3 stages together one last time.
Okay, the 3 stages of capability. LLMs give you that core of language understanding and predictive reasoning.
The foundation.
The foundation. Then RA acts as the dynamic information filter, injecting personalization and real-time context.
The bridge.
The bridge. And finally, agentic AI overlays all of that with the self-directing capabilities of planning, persistent memory, and, crucially, external tool-based execution.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. We've watched AI transition from something you ask a question to something you delegate a high-level goal to. We are moving from a world where AI is a passive search tool to a world where it's an active executive agent.
It can handle multi-step tasks for you autonomously.
So the question to think about is, what fundamental changes will we see in the structure of our daily work, in how we manage teams, when delegation shifts from telling a person what to do to just assigning a goal to an AI that simply executes it?
Think about that until our next deep dive. Thanks for joining us.